The BS Report is a free-flowing conversation that occasionally touches on mature subjects.
First of all,
This is the BS Report with Bill Simmons.
it might be cool, I don't know. And if it's not, I don't
The
care.
BS Report with Bill Simmons.
Bill Simmons works for ESPN. He's also named the sports guy, and he writes a comical sports column. He must be a popular dude.
The BS Report.
It's got a real dirty sound, like a rusty steak knife cutting through a well-aged steak.
Now.
Here's Bill Simmons.
Welcome to the BS Report. It's Monday, the week of All-Star Weekend. How have we not had a three-man podcast with Ric Bucher and Marc Stein yet? I apologize. Terrible job by me. On the line right now, Marc Stein from ESPN.com. Ric Bucher, our beloved former colleague who now has about 17 jobs. Fellas, can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear, but Simo, I've been hearing you for the last several months, so this is not all that new for me. It was just a one-way conversation of late.
I will tell
really
you.
Happening?
Yeah, it's happening. I will tell you, as somebody who has the NBA package, I always get excited to see you pop up during these Warriors home games now. It's like, hey, it's Bucher. There he is.
Yeah. It's been fun for me.
Let's start there. The Warriors. 4-game tailspin until yesterday. I was actually thinking about them as a possible real dark horse in the West because I think it's going to be really tough to win a playoff game there. Is this team the rabbit of the 2013 season, or do you actually think they can go anywhere in the playoffs?
No, winning a round would be a huge accomplishment. The problem they have is they're a system team, but ultimately, and as you guys know, to win a playoff series, you need that go-to scorer at the end of games, and you can game plan to take certain things away from them. And ultimately, Jarrett Jack, by default, is sort of their go-to guy, and unless you're seeing Jarrett Jack as the go-to guy on a team that can contend for a title, which, as much as I like Jack, I've never seen him that way. The answer for me would be no.
Steiny Mo, who's your dark horse?
Steph Curry and David Lee don't count?
Well, the problem is, and the reason that they go away from Steph as the point guard and move him to 2 at the end of games is because Steph really can't create his own shot. He's great at that quick, coming down on the break, stop and pop from 3. But outside of that, if you put a big defender on him or you force him to drive, you can make the game difficult. And David Lee, same thing. There's just matchups, length on both of those guys that can really make the game hard for him. That's why they go to Jack, because Jack physically can bump off most point guards and at least get that sort of fade jump shot mid-range. But that's really what you're relying on for the most part at the end of games, and I don't think that's good enough to win more than a series against the right opponent.
Great chemistry, though. Great fans. It's been fun to have the Warriors back, and at the very least, an entertaining team. Steiny Mo, who is your dark horse right now? You're not allowed to say the Chicago Bulls. Who is it? Do you have a dark horse right now?
I would say the only dark horses are in the East. As good as the West is, as much as we fawn about the depth and how much trouble the Lakers and Mavs are having to get into the playoffs, Oklahoma City or San Antonio is winning the West for me. Now, Miami is obviously the prohibitive favorite in the East, but just by virtue of the fact that there is no clear-cut number 2, and we all seem to change our mind on who that team is every week, there is an opportunity for. As good as your Celtics look right now, nobody's going to want to play them.
Yes.
You mentioned Chicago. Obviously, they've got the best record within the conference, and they haven't even brought Derrick Rose back yet. Nobody talks about Indy, and they've become really hard to score on. And the Knicks, they've been declining. They've been a 500 team for the last couple months. But what if they get hot again? What if the threes start going down again? They're going to be tough. The East, to me, are where all the surprises are going to be.
Isn't San Antonio a dark horse at this point?
Yeah, I've said this on TV that they're kind of like the Patriots at this point. This great regular season team And yet, for whatever reason, it just hasn't translated to the playoffs. They don't have that extra gear. It's like they are who they are. It's their system. They love playing with each other. They kind of maximize their potential, and it's tough to go up a level. And that's what's killed the Patriots these last 5 years.
I'm not sure about that yet. I'm not sure about that.
You're not sure? Well, because the counter.
I live the closest to them, so maybe I'm swayed by geography. But Oklahoma City, they've found something special in that Western Conference Finals to turn that thing on its head. And I don't know, San Antonio still can't explain it. And there's no question the Spurs are still going to have trouble guarding Oklahoma City because they're so young, they're so athletic. They probably still need one more guy at the rim. But I think the San Antonio team is better than last year. And just by the virtual way of the way Parker is playing, I mean, this is the best we've ever seen him.
Right.
I mean, the way they keep winning without Duncan and Ginobili. I mean, I think they've taken it up a small notch from last year.
The counter to the
real dark horse in all this is that Simo is on TV.
The counter to my Spurs theory is that you can make a really strong case. They just got unlucky the last two seasons. Like they go into this Memphis buzzsaw 2 playoffs ago that just was a bad matchup for them, and Memphis was cresting, and it just everything. Yeah,
but how many times can you play that card? I went with that. I went with that 2 years ago when they had the injuries right beforehand, and who was it? Was it Dallas that knocked them out, or was it Memphis? 2 years ago.
Yeah, Memphis.
And I thought, okay, I'll go with that because Dallas kind of Dallas was very much like San Antonio. They just kind of found their way there, and they came together at the right time. But the idea that they're winning without Ginobili and they'll get Ginobili back and they'll be a team again, I think is ignoring that there's a reason that they don't survive. They're great in the regular season and they don't survive in the postseason because at this point their individual guys can't win you games anymore or they're not healthy enough to. I look at them a lot like Chicago. They're both system teams. They're going to beat you on most type of nights when you're not ready because they're always going to be ready. But when you get to the postseason and everything is level, then the individual talent comes out. And that's where I think San Antonio and Chicago are lacking.
But how far? It's not like they were miles away last year. I mean, they won 20 games in a row, and after game 2, you walked out of that arena and you said, for Oklahoma City, these young kids just, they've got to learn another, they got to have one more lesson from the old masters. I mean, that series turned around about as dramatically as any I can remember covering. I mean, Oklahoma City.
I agree.
They grew up in the span of 2 or 3 games.
I agree, but what do you think? They're not going to revert now. And it was really a matter of will Oklahoma City play to their capability or not? And that's the difference for me. When some of the best teams in the league play to their capability, San Antonio no longer can match that because they're playing at their capability on more nights than anybody else. It's why they have the fantastic regular season record that they have. It's Pop demands it out of them. And
I would also say, I think, we don't talk about Oklahoma City at all because we're all contractually obligated to fixate on the Lakers 25 hours a day. But
No. That's you two guys. That's
true. It's just us.
We have some things to find out about this Oklahoma City team. Now they have not missed Harden at all yet.
I think they're better because of it.
But we have to see. Don't you have to see that in the playoffs though to know for sure? I mean, Serge Ibaka he's taken a huge step. I mean, if you were choosing between Harden and Ibaka, it would be hard to make the case that because Ibaka is so much harder to replace because of the position he plays.
Yeah.
But we still don't know. Do we really know? We have to see it in the playoffs. And I know your guy Westbrook. I mean, he still makes me nervous.
Absolutely. He makes me more nervous now than he did. But to me, it's still a matter of can Ibaka step up? The key, if we had an Oklahoma City-Miami final again, the key to me, and the key was last year to me, was that Ibaka had to be better than Chris Bosh. He had to be the best big man at power forward and arguably the best big man on the floor if you don't count LeBron. And he clearly wasn't. He wasn't ready for that. Now, somebody made the point to me that when you're the fourth option, and you're just defending Bosh, and you never have the opportunity to go back at him offensively and make him work at the other end, that you're at a disadvantage. If they meet again, or whoever they meet, that won't be the disadvantage. Ibaka will have the opportunity to go at people in a way that he couldn't previously. Now, can he take advantage of that? Will his game hold up under playoff pressure? That I don't know, but to me, that's going to be the deciding. That and Russ's willingness to not take things into his own hands when things get a little sideways. Those, to me, are going to be the two things that are going to decide whether Oklahoma City goes back to the finals and whether they do any more than they did last year.
Yeah, I'm not. The choice might have been Harden or Westbrook. Harden has been so good. I know a lot of people out there think, it's a product of the way Houston plays. They take a zillion shots a game. They're always looking to run and jack threes. But, his numbers this month, the guy is producing at a really high level. Until the playoffs, we don't know. It's going to be a fascinating question to see what the Thunder look like in the playoffs, which, of course, is the only time any of us even pay attention to what they're doing.
My only question on Harden is that he doesn't defend. And Russ doesn't always defend, but he's certainly capable of being a much, much better defender than Harden is.
Should we let Simmons say something now?
Yeah, well, it's tough because
Are you still on the line, Bill?
You guys are on a delay, so
didn't you say enough yesterday, Sunday?
God, we're on TV forever. I wanted to talk about the Harden trade really quick. So I'm really torn. I'm still torn on this trade. I still think fundamentally I don't agree with the trade. I thought they should have kept him for one more year and then figured it out next summer. I don't think they got enough in that trade to justify blowing up what might have been a 70-win team. But on the other hand, it clearly had a good effect on this team because it pushed Durant and Westbrook to another level. I think it affected those guys to hear people's reactions after the trade, to hear people say, hey, yeah, those guys, they aren't really, they're fringe contenders now. They're not the same. I think that was the best thing that ever happened to both Durant and Westbrook. So in a weird way, it was a good thing, but I still think they miss him. And you watch Westbrook melt down 2 weeks ago with the Cephalosha thing, and it was rerun on the internet endlessly, but I'm still not sold on him being the guy you can totally 100% trust if it gets really heated in the playoffs. And that's what Harden was. Harden was the security blanket for that team when Westbrook kind of flew off the handle. That's my biggest concern. What do you guys think of that?
Well, financially, I just feel like they tried to get ahead of the curve, that they couldn't. I agreed with you initially that I would have liked to have seen them just hold this together and make one more run, but that would have put them in a tough spot as far as everybody would have known that now they have to make a move. And I don't know if they necessarily would have gotten the same deal. The deal that they got from the Rockets as far as continuing to build their team is really good. And the other element here is that, it seems like Durant just signed his deal yesterday, but they, being a small market and moving forward, they need to still have the wherewithal to say to KD, yeah, we're good now and we're contending now, but we're going to continue to be there. This is the reason why you need to stay with us. And those pieces that they got from Harden, for Harden, allow them to do that. Whereas if you had Harden and say they come up short this year, they re-up Harden and they said, this is our team moving forward, and they found that they weren't good enough, then what's your selling point on KD that this is the best place for him to stay to continue chasing championships?
Yeah, it's the same thing Memphis just did. They made their trades, both of those teams, from a position of strength instead of waiting, and then you're just going to get lowballed. And in the Memphis case especially, people are acting like they broke up the 27 Yankees, and I'm just, they've never, Rudy Gay, they've won one playoff series and Rudy Gay wasn't on the floor. So, he's never been an all-star. So, I understand, if neither team wanted to make that move. Memphis did not want to trade Rudy Gay now, and Oklahoma City didn't want to trade Harden 4 days before the season starts. But if you're going to get a better deal, and I think there's no question that both of those teams got more by doing it now than waiting.
Well, see, I totally disagree. I don't think they got enough. And I think you look at the haul they got for that trade. James Harden is one of the best 13 or 14 players in the league. He's a franchise guy. And any concern you had about him heading into that trade was that, he's putting up those great stats against backups. And it's that once he becomes the man, it's going to be much harder. He became the man, and he's one of the best scorers in the league. And look at what they got. They got Jeremy Lamb, who's a D-leaguer, at least this far. I mean, he's done nothing for them. They got Kevin Martin, who they probably could have gotten anyway in a separate trade for expiring contracts and a number one. And then they got this draft pick that's Toronto's pick. Toronto is, with this Rudy Gay trade, is now, that pick's probably like 12 or 13. So I don't really know what they got. Like, why was that deal so great?
They got more than Orlando got for Dwight Howard.
Oh, I disagree.
Kevin Martin is a very good player who can keep them at the championship level in the short term. I mean, they haven't lost that much, at least based on the evidence we have to judge so far in the regular season. He fits in very well there with what they do.
But Stein, no, you can't. They didn't get it as much as Orlando got. Orlando got Vucevic. They got Aflalo. They got Mo Harkless. Like they got pieces in that. They got a draft pick. They got pieces in that trade. Two first round picks, and a player who keeps my team at basically the same level that it was. That's a good haul to me.
Plus the cap relief that they get with Kmart at this stage. And I agree with Steiny in this regard that as far as a fit in the short term for 1 year, Kmart's is a great fit. He gets to the free throw line. He makes his free throws. He doesn't. You don't need to feature him. I mean, he's a much better fit than, say, if you were going to add an O.J. Mayo into this equation. Just as a comparison. All right,
but devil's advocate, though. I mean, they could have gotten J.J. Redick right now for a first-round pick and some expirings and Perry Jones. Like, I feel like you can get other Kevin Martins. If I'm trading James Harden, I need to get a blue chipper back, and I'm not sure they did. Like, even
wait a minute, J.J. Redick is a blue chip?
No. I'm saying for the James Harden trade. Like, for instance, it really seems like the Wizards screwed up and could have had Harden for Bradley Beal, which is a trade they should have done 100 times out of 100. But at least if I get Bradley Beal back, if I'm Oklahoma City, now I have a guy as a future All-Star.
They couldn't have had that.
Well, because Washington didn't put it on the table. But I'm saying
no,
I need to get a blue chipper back.
I think they would have loved to get Bradley Beal, but they couldn't.
Right. But I'm saying that's the trade I would make. To me, that is a can't miss. All right, I can't turn this down. I have to trade James Harden.
But they haven't made the picks yet. How do you know they're not going to turn those two first into a blue chipper?
Well, two first. One is Lamb, who has, I mean, when you look at that draft after the 9th pick, do you love anybody in that draft? I think maybe we overrated Lamb just because we thought the draft as a whole was better than maybe it was after that 10th pick, and it just wasn't. After Drummond, it drops off.
But the other element that you have here is, number one, you stay right fiscally in a small market. Don't underestimate that element. And you have this promise of we still have the flexibility and the draft picks moving forward to say to KD, we can continue to improve this team. Don't undervalue the ability to say we still have the ability to get better. Whereas you look at Miami with LeBron or anybody else there. I mean, what's Miami's ability when they have to re-up LeBron or try to re-up LeBron to say this is how we're going to get better? They're locked up financially. They don't have that ability. And that's in Miami. Oklahoma City, at least, gives itself the wherewithal to say, hey, look, stay with us, stick with us, because we've got a pretty good track record, and we have the flexibility to continue to get better.
Right. The Lakers and the Heat can go year by year by virtue of the markets they play in and the pedigree. I mean, look, you hear whispers now out of Laker land that say, well, even if Dwight leaves, we're fine because we're the Lakers and we'll just get somebody else. I don't fully believe that, but that's the way they think. That's really the way they think. If you're Oklahoma City or Memphis, you can't take that approach.
Do either of you guys think LeBron is going to be in Miami in 2015?
I do not.
I do not either.
I do. But before we get to that, I need to bring this up because since Steiny Mo and Nash are BFF, I need to know how Steiny Mo feels about Simo saying that Steve Nash is washed up.
No, that's not what I said. Not what I said. I said
that's the way I read it. That's the way I read it in the press release I got.
Thank you, Steiny Mo. And how about that? I mean, I have, you get press releases summarizing his comments now. Man,
wow! I don't even get those press releases.
That's because nobody's watching.
Stop it! We got a huge rating. No, I said Steve Nash has gotten a free pass this year because of the soap opera that is the 2013 Lakers, and either he's still hurt or maybe he's on his way to being washed up here.
So soft pedaled this.
That's what I said. He's been terrible this year. He's been terrible. Avery Bradley.
You didn't say that. You said he's washed up.
No, or I said maybe he's washed up. I said either he's injured or maybe he's washed up. Because
now I'm obviously not the I'm obviously not the most objective Steve Nash observer in the history of NBA journalism.
No, you need not preface that. We understand that.
But what he doesn't even have the ball right now. He's playing off guard. I mean, yeah. I was in Phoenix for his return game. In the fourth quarter, he hardly touched it. Yesterday against Miami, same thing. What would you like him to do?
Simo, what would you like him to do?
Listen, I love Steve Nash. I don't want Steve Nash to be washed up. But here's what I watched on Thursday night. Avery Bradley pestered him to the point that Steve Nash didn't want to dribble the ball over half court anymore. He was literally throwing it to other guys so they could dribble it up. I have never in my life seen Steve Nash afraid to dribble the ball up court against somebody. That's what worried me.
Well, Avery Bradley does that to Dwayne Wade and a lot of people. But
I know he does. It's just it scared me because Steve Nash. He's Steve Nash.
The way the Lakers are so twisted right now. Kobe's the quarterback. Nash is like playing off the ball, waiting for his Steve Kerr opportunities. Dwight doesn't want to pick and roll with the best pick and roll guy there is. I mean, it's absolute. It's so bizarre. But
explain this to me, Steiny Mo. We keep hearing about how D'Antoni is all about his system, and Gasol doesn't work in his system, and he needs guys for his system. Steve Nash, if he was playing well and if he was healthy, is the ultimate guy for his system, and yet they have relegated him to being the off guard. It doesn't make sense to me.
They're barely even running his system.
They're not running D'Antoni's system.
I mean, they have to play slow because they're so old. And so basically they've decided, let Kobe have the ball and let Nash, because he's such a great shooter, let him spot up and work off him. But, I mean, if he's going to play that role, and Steve Nash can certainly play it, I mean, we're talking about one of the best shooters ever, but he's not going to be causing the havoc he caused in Phoenix when he's getting into the paint. Now, look, he is by no means blameless here. His return was supposed to make everybody happy in Lakerland. I said that 50 times while he was out injured. It obviously hasn't happened, but you have to at least factor in he doesn't have the ball. He is not getting 50 pick and roll calls like he used to in the Phoenix days. It's just not happening.
Well, then maybe he can't get in a groove because even when he has the ball, he just seems a step slow to me. And I keep thinking like they gave up 2 first rounders for him. And I don't even think they have their lottery pick this year if they finish in the lottery.
I'm with you.
No, they don't.
They did that before they got Dwight. I'm asking watching the Lakers now, with or without Dwight, I'm asking myself, why did they even want Nash?
He certainly didn't help their defense. We could tell you that much. And, they could have gotten Jose Calderon. They could have gotten for a song last summer, right? Compared to what they paid for Nash.
They traded for Nash before D'Antoni was even a thought and before they got Dwight Howard. But looking at it now, you have to ask, how were Nash and Kobe ever going to work? I mean, if Nash doesn't have the ball, I don't know why you'd want him on your team.
I don't know either.
Nash is 39. He's not right. If you look at having a non-displaced fracture and missing all the time that he had at his age to get back to where he was and to play sort of the whirling dervish style, to me, he's morphing into what Jason Kidd was and is in Dallas and in New York. But you need to have athleticism around him to still utilize what Nash can do with his brain as much as he does with his ball handling and everything else. I mean, if J. Kidd has to handle the ball and be a dribble penetrator, we'd be saying he's done too. But he's been able to sustain because they can kind of mix and match him with another point guard in the backcourt. And frankly, the Lakers don't have that right now. Kobe's the closest thing they have to it. And as Steiny said, to me, they're really not running. No, nobody's. I mean, they're just playing or they're running isolation sets for Kobe. And to me, it's largely because they don't have the personnel to take advantage of Nash, and Nash isn't Nash right now.
Do you guys think that Dwight gets traded before the deadline? Let's start with Steiny Mo.
I say no. I say the Lakers because, again, they first of all, there's two things. As Mitch Kupchak has said, and Mitch Kupchak is one of those guys, when he makes a public pronouncement, I tend to believe it because he's such a by-the-book kind of guy. Spin is not really in his arsenal. I mean, he's come out and said, we're not trading Dwight, and we can't really make any trades with our principal guys because it's true. This season has been such a circus. They can't go through another transition of a big change. You can't, even if Powell was healthy, you can't trade him and try to incorporate 2 or 3 new pieces now. I mean, there's just not enough time. This season is already a wash. Even if they make the playoffs, how far are they going? It's just not worth making a panic trade. But as far as Dwight, they genuinely believe still that he's staying as bad as things have gone. And privately, they'll whisper and say, you know what, we're the Lakers. If he leaves, we'll recover. We'll be fine. So I don't think there's any way we see Dwight move before the deadline.
Yeah, I would fully expect that he's not going to move and that Dwight wants to make sure that he gets a max deal before he goes anyplace else. I don't know how long he remains a Laker, but I don't see him getting moved before the February trade deadline.
And he knows his rep cannot withstand going to the Lakers and saying, you know what, this just hasn't worked. Let's find a trade. I mean, he can't do that. He would be slaughtered if that happened.
Well, from what you guys have seen from Dwight Howard, would you give him a $100 million 5-year max deal? Because I would not. I really think he's breaking down just completely. I think his whole body is he reminds me, we've seen it before in basketball, but I think when big men lose their athleticism to some degree, it's very rare that it comes back. I remember.
Wait a minute. How old is he?
Yeah,
he's 27.
Are you kidding? Are you kidding me?
He's
been in the league for 9 years. This is his 9th year. Like remember Jermaine O'Neal. Once upon a time in Toronto.
Why are you not saying the same about LeBron James?
Because LeBron James doesn't get hurt. This guy's had a major back issue, and he's had a major shoulder issue now. And athletically, he doesn't look the same to me. And I remember Toronto traded for Jermaine O'Neal, and everybody was like, oh, he needs to change the scenery. He's going to be fine. Meanwhile, if you watched him in those last two, I think he was in Indiana and then maybe Miami. Or no, he was in Indiana, Toronto, then Miami. But you watched him, and you're like, wow, this guy's just not the same athlete anymore. What happened here? It never came back. Never came back for Larry Johnson. I'm really dubious that it's going to come back for Dwight Howard. I'm not buying it.
I can't possibly see. I mean, look, he's still recovering from the back surgery. If anything, to me, it was crazy that he started the season and was playing 30 minutes a night. Like, you look at every big man that they rushed back, every single one of them, that proved to be a mistake. Whether it was Bogut or Dwight,
Odin, everybody, Odin, Bill Walton, name a center who keeps getting hurt. Yeah.
Well, but for whatever reason, this idea that, especially guys that were traded for, that we need to try to expedite getting them back, it hasn't worked. I'll say this. I mean, look, I have far greater concerns that Andrew Bynum will ever be right than I do about Dwight. I think it's way too early to suggest that Dwight is breaking down physically because he's coming back from back surgery and now he has the shoulder issue. To me, if it was feet, ankle, knees, then I'd have an issue. But upper body with Dwight, I'm not I'm not worried about that.
Here's the thing that
it's mind-boggling to me. It's mind-boggling to me that Dwight has shown so much reluctance to get in pick and rolls, and like he wants post catches, and he could play with Nash and run all these pick and rolls, and I don't get it. I don't get why he just doesn't want to do that, because I think that was the thought that Nash and Dwight could replicate some of the Nash, Amari Stoudemire magic. But putting all that aside, the one area where Dwight has not gotten nearly enough of a pass from us criticizing him on the outside is he did come back very early from that back surgery, and that surgery was a big deal. I mean, the guy's been way too durable in his career for us to start writing him off. I mean, until this back surgery, he never missed any game.
I'm the
bigger problem from
I'm not writing him off. I just
Dwight,
think. Oh, go ahead. You go, Buke, then I'll go.
The bigger problem for me with Dwight is that when he was in Orlando, his entire career, everything ran through him, and everything was built around him. And it takes, in some ways, a lesser basketball IQ when you're the centerpiece. And now he has to play off a lot of guys, and he has to figure out how to play without the ball and make an impact. And to me, that's where the great challenge is for him right now, is that he's, and it's prevalent with guys coming straight out of high school. He's never had to do that before. And to me, that's impacting his game as much as anything else.
Here are my fears in order with Dwight Howard. First of all, they told us he was gonna play and he was gonna recover as the season went along. Exact same guy he was 3 months ago physically. I haven't seen him get any better athletically. You think of the guy that he used to be, who was just one of the most overpowering dudes in the league, somebody who could jump multiple times for a rebound as everybody was jumping once, kind of like what somebody like Blake Griffin or Ibaka does now. He just can't do that anymore. He jumps once, everybody else is jumping twice. And in person, it really looks like he's laboring to me, and it just doesn't look like he's getting better. But he's got
the shoulder thing too now. It's not just the back. I mean, he's recovering from a back surgery and playing with a bad shoulder. I mean, that's a lot. But
Stein, this stuff adds up. I mean, you're a big guy. Shaq hit a point where the injuries just started to wear him down. He was older than Howard. This was the mid 2000s, but at some point it just changed for him, and he became a different type of player. I don't know if we're going to see 2009 Dwight Howard ever again. And if we don't, then why do I want to give him $110 million? And then when you look at the way he's handling himself off the court, why do I want to trust him as my franchise guy? This guy has terrible judgment, like really bad. Even yesterday, he gets mic'd up for that Lakers game. This guy should be running away from microphones. Why? What would make him think it's a good idea to be mic'd up? Just don't give interviews, Dwight Howard. Don't do anything. Stay out of the limelight for a week, and he just can't do it.
I mean, he's culpable for a lot of things, but I mean, on the health, I think we got to give him more time. I just think it's too soon and too much is going on for us to write him off on that score. Comments, behavior, his mood, his attitude, his whole approach. I mean, you can nitpick a lot of stuff, but I'm gonna hold off. I'm gonna hold off on the health side.
One more injury question.
He's 27 years old. I mean, really, he's 27 years old. I fully, even if you give him a max contract at this point, you're only taking him through age 33. And the fact of the matter is, he's still a huge draw. Again, I have far less concern about giving him a max deal and where he might go, especially since I look at him and he still has a lot to go as far as the maturity is concerned. I would expect that that's going to improve. And ultimately, I don't see him as a bad guy. I'd like him to be a more serious guy. I question just how committed he is to winning championships as much as he talks about it. But as a big with his athleticism, there are a ton of guys that I'd have far more concern about investing in than ahead of Dwight Howard.
When would you guys, if you were the Bulls, speaking of injury guys, would you bring back Derrick Rose for this last 2 month stretch? Because this has been, I'm shocked by it. I think this is a more polarizing topic than I thought it was going to be. To me, it's like if he's ready, he's ready. Just start playing him. And yet a lot of people don't feel that way.
Steiny Mo,
You're the Rose expert. You go first.
I would say hell no, because of the way he plays, because of the way Thibodeau coaches. That when he comes back, there's no putting a minutes limitation or the way you play limitation on Derrick Rose. It's why I'm in the bag for him, because when he plays all out. He plays all out in practice. He gives you everything he has. And when I look at that ACL and I look at the difference that another 3 months would provide, and the fact that as good as the Bulls have been, shockingly good this year, they saved money. They went the route of we're going to save our money for a later date. If you're not going to invest and try to make this team appreciably better than the last one that came up short, why should I ask Derrick Rose to come back and get a hernia trying to lift this team even higher when it has less? It just, and I know with him, I mean, he thinks they could be, I've said it before, they could be 11 games out with 10 games to go, and he would come back thinking, I can find a way to make this happen. I just wouldn't allow him to do this with this group. I would find that other all-star or that other superstar to pair with him for next season and bring him back with a better chance of him not having another injury and go after it. He's got another 10 years to chase this, to go for it right now with where Miami is, with the way LeBron is playing. I just think it's incredibly short-sighted.
Yeah, because let's not forget, the whispers all summer were that the Bulls were going to try to convince Derrick Rose to sit this whole season out.
Yep.
That they didn't even want to play him. They wouldn't have minded, I don't know if tanking's the right word, but they wouldn't have minded a season where they slipped, fell in the lottery, maybe got a nice pick out of it. But of course, in classic Thibodeau fashion, they completely overachieve. Noah finds a new gear. Lou Aldeng's playing 57 minutes a game. Boozer's picked it up here in January, and now they find themselves, doing so much better than anybody thought. So the question has to be asked. But yeah, they're not. I mean, if Rose comes back, there's going to have to be a period of adjustment. I know in that gridiron football you like that everybody talks about Adrian Peterson, but that's no guarantee that Rose can do the same thing.
Right.
Gridiron football. Well played, Steiny Mo.
You got to be careful. You got to be careful with that kid.
It's funny because usually the three of us will agree on something like this. I disagree because here's the thing. Like, it's almost like people are talking, like Magic and I were arguing about this yesterday. My best friend in the world, Magic Johnson, and I, we were arguing about this in the green room yesterday. Buke, make a snarky comment. Anything? Nothing? All right, he's going to pass up. So
I'm not surprised at all. It's the most charming guy in NBA history.
No, he really is.
You couldn't fall under his spell with him twice over.
That needs no comment. I mean, that's beautiful. That's where you are these days, Simo.
So Magic made the exact same case that Buke made. And my counter to that is I don't think Derrick Rose is like a dumb guy. I don't think he's a guy that you just throw him on a basketball court and he's like, I only know one way to play. I'm Derrick Rose. I just have to go full speed. I have no regard for my safety. I mean, this guy has just spent the last year thinking about what were the reasons that caused that injury. Was it a fluke? Do I have to change the style that I play? All of us watched him and thought, those first few years and thought, man, this guy is reckless. Man, this guy, if there's anybody who's going to blow out his knee on a drive, it's Derrick Rose. I mean, all of us thought that the way he played. I trust his basketball IQ. I think he's a really smart basketball player. And if anybody can figure out how to readjust how he plays, settle for more jump shots, kind of pick his spots, I think it's him. I actually believe he can do this.
But do you know how pissed off he is right now? I mean, this dude, he always played with a huge chip on his shoulder. But as of right now, I'm scared to think of when he gets back how he's going to play, because he's been champing at the bit for a year. He's been working on his game. He feels he feels an obligation to the Bulls, to Adidas, to everybody who's ever supported him.
Yep.
That he's out for a year, and so that's what's. I mean, look at what he did last year in the lockout when they had the reason he was so banged up by the end of the year is because they had that unbelievable start where they're on the road. They had the most difficult schedule. They're playing 7 games in 9 nights, and he's out there banged up and would not back off. As much as everybody was like, dude, you're going to kill yourself. And ultimately he did. So the big thing for me is more than anything else is that everybody's looking at the Bulls and, whether it's Noah's improvement, the minutes that Daniel's playing, but this team is a considerably worse playoff team, regardless of what they're doing in the regular season, than they were a year ago.
I actually disagree. I disagree with you. I think
how so?
Noah's playing better than he's ever played. Jimmy
but
Butler.
But he's still individually. I mean, I'm watching Kenneth Faried. If you match his energy, what does Noah have that he goes to?
I'm only thinking about, can they beat Miami? And I think they're a really bad matchup for Miami because of their rebounders and the way they protect the rim. They have 2 guys to throw at LeBron. And granted, LeBron is in another universe right now. But at least with Dang and Jimmy Butler, they can make him work a little bit. They can make Wade work.
Oh,
the Butler thing to me is a huge deal. The Butler is a revelation. He's a huge deal that hit the way he's playing, in my opinion.
The sports guy
LeBron
should be renamed.
James will stick Luol Deng in the rim. Come on now.
The sports guy should be renamed the win now guy. You want to win now in all scenarios. We are never going to get invited back on this podcast again because we've debunked every one of your theories so far.
What is the win now theory? If Derrick Rose is ready, he's ready. If the doctors say, look, he did his rehab, he's 100%, then why wouldn't he play basketball?
The Bulls aren't ready.
Who cares?
So, why risk bringing back Derrick Rose where giving, without question, nobody questions that you give him an extra 3 months and prepare him for next season rather than bringing him back and throwing him into the game where everybody is playing at a speed that he can't be ready for. There's no
what are
way
you
for
risking?
him to get ready for it.
If he's 100%, what are you risking?
But he's not 100%. You're risking his having to accelerate and suddenly play at game speed and then playoff speed when he hasn't been able to adjust his body to it. And all the work that he's doing and everything that he's doing still can't get him ready for this, especially when he comes back. He's not coming back as Iman Shumpert. He's not coming back even as Rick. Look at Ricky Rubio. Ricky Rubio's back. He can't play back-to-back. His game is up and down. And Derrick Rose plays a much more high-powered game than either one of those guys.
Well, wait, you just convinced
me.
Now,
it's not worth rolling the dice.
Now, I think here's what they should do. You just convinced me. I think they should hold him out for the next 3 years until Carlos Boozer's contract retires. Just send him to the Caribbean. Like, why not go for any title? When is Boozer's contract up? 2015?
Are you this snarky when you talk to Magic? I never hear that. I'll tell you what. If you were this way with Magic on the NBA countdown, I would DVR what you're doing.
You DVR it anyway. Listen, he should come back if he's ready. If he's 100%, he's ready. It's time. And I think he's going to be 100% in about a week.
He's not going to be ready until next fall.
How do you know? Do you know that for a fact?
Yes.
You know for a fact they told him Derrick Rose will not be 100% until next fall.
Yes.
All right. Well, that changes everything. That's like real information. I'm just speculating like I always do. You didn't tell me you had information. So what is he now? Like 85?
Is he 85? I don't know what percentage to put on him. He's not playing 5-on-5 full court.
Wilbon actually said he was. Wilbon said he's playing 5-on-5 full court and has been for about 3 weeks.
I thought Thibodeau said the other day he's not. I mean, look, there's a lot of things. He's doing a lot of things, and it's not even a matter of whether he's going to play, 5-on-5 full court or any of that stuff. It's a matter of and it is simply the attachment of that ligament in his knee will be measurably stronger and more complete with an additional 3 months than less than 3 months. If you want to, you want to put a percentage on it, it's going to be 100%, or it's not. It's a matter of increasing the odds that there will be no setbacks and no issues. And to give it an extra 3 months makes it that more certain that he moves forward and plays the next 10, 12 years without any issues versus, we can bring him back and there's a 96% chance that there won't be any problems and he can come back and he'll be okay. But considering who Derrick Rose is and what he means, and more important, where the Chicago Bulls are in their development right now, I'd rather save the 4% than bring Derrick Rose back right now for a team that's not built to win a championship.
Steiny Mo, what have you heard any info about this?
Not to the extent that Buke is reporting. Since we're not reporting.
I'm not reporting anything on
you're not wasting your goods on the BS report.
Wouldn't waste it on me. Why would he do that? Buke did report that Deron Williams people seem to feel like he's turning into a diva, which I can corroborate.
Yes, I did.
And I can corroborate that report.
Zulia thing that Buke is using that absolutely tortures you. He tweets everything and only 7 words of his tweet show up.
And then you have to click on it. It's a genius move by Bucher, but Deron Williams.
Thank you. Thank you, Simo.
Deron Williams, most overrated player in the league right now, $20 million a year, and I don't know what I'm getting. And just now, as we were doing this podcast, it broke that he got the platelet-rich therapy on his ankles, the treatment, and he's going to miss the next 2 games and go into the All-Star break. So now they are. I don't know how to interpret that information.
Well, they have to hope it's injury related.
They have to hope that, yes.
$40 million. They've got $40 million invested in that backcourt. And right. Joe Johnson hasn't sniffed a 20-point game for about the last 10 games. D. Will is shooting less than 30% in fourth quarters. I mean,
and when you look at what they gave up to basically usher in the Deron Williams era, I think it was like they gave up Favors, who was the second pick in the draft. The next pick turned out to be number 3, and then they traded this year's number 1 for Jared Wallace, and that turned out to be Damian Lillard. And Jared Wallace has been an MIA with this $40 million contract. So number 2, number 3, and a number 6 to have the Deron Williams era, and he's top 3 most overpaid guys in the league. Buke, any signs of hope for this?
Well, I mean, they are, for all that we're saying, they're 5th in the Eastern Conference and have made a huge jump from where they were last year. I like the evolution of Brook Lopez. When I look at opening a new building and trying to go to New York and and stick a flag in the ground, I get that when we look at the salaries and we look at the names, you could argue that this team has underachieved. But if you're asking me, would I rather be Brooklyn or whether I'd be the Lakers at this point, I still take the Brooklyn situation. And I believe that, a lot of this, I don't know what happened to Deron Williams, because I was long a Deron Williams fan and, I don't know, supporter or advocate, whatever you want to call it. And
proponent, I think, is the word you're looking for on your Dartmouth dictionary.
Yeah, okay, proponent. And so I'd like to think that this is him coming to grips with, we made you the assistant GM and we built things around you, and we really haven't had a coach there who can say to you, hey, look, your career is slowly slipping away, and people have taken a completely different view of you, and you need to kind of step up, and if you want to be regarded as one of the premier players in this league and premier point guards and premier leaders, you need to take an entirely different approach. And look, I look at what happened, the transformation of LeBron in Miami and what he's become and how he's changed his game. So I do believe it's possible, but I also believe that sometimes you need the circumstance where a guy can't have carte blanche. In fact, you have to narrow the margins for the guy and force him to become more responsible and more selfless and more unanimous or magnanimous rather. And I don't think Deron is there right now, and I hope it's just an adjustment period for him. But I can't get too worked up about where Brooklyn is.
Last year, 40.7% shooting. This year, 41.3%. Steiny Mo, I know things aren't great for Mavericks fans right now, but is it fair to say they may have dodged a major bullet here by not ending up with that Deron Williams contract?
Things are not going well enough for the Mavs to indulge in that kind of thinking. I think, Mark Cuban came into the season saying he likes the team better that he ended up with. The caveat that you still have to throw into that discussion is if Deron Williams, if the Mavs still had Tyson Chandler, would Deron Williams have come, and would D. Will, Chandler, and Dirk be a trio you could roll forward with? And really, you cannot judge that until we see what happens this summer. If the Mavs strike out again this summer, then, all the second guessing can commence full throttle. But, I think we have to give them the summer to see what they spin out of. Because at this point, D. Will just looks nothing like the player that the Mavs thought they were trying to steal from Brooklyn. But, you asked the question, what hope does Brooklyn still have? The hope they have is if they got Mikhail Prokhorov, they've got an owner who's willing to go into the tax no matter what. And those, that club is getting smaller and smaller. The Mavs aren't even in that club anymore. So, that's, I guess, the good news for Brooklyn. And like Buke said, you'd always rather be in the East because your opportunity is so much greater to go far. But
who has a brighter future right now when you look at the teams in the Eastern Conference? And you asked about dark horses, and I'd say that the Pacers would be my dark horse. So that's one team that I think has. But outside of Indiana and Chicago, who has a brighter future right now in the Eastern Conference?
Than Brooklyn, or just in general?
Yeah, than Brooklyn and Indiana in terms of what they have right now in the age of their players.
I kind of like what the Pistons have going. I know not for the playoffs this year. I'm just saying, all of a sudden they have some guys that you look at and you go, all right, Greg Monroe and Andre Drummond. It's a pretty interesting combination for the next 10 years.
And Andre Drummond is one of Twitter's 5 favorite players.
Yeah, and when you watch what Calderon, I actually enjoy watching the Pistons now because of what Calderon has done for that team.
Has the entire league become a popularity contest now?
Well,
he's one of the top 5 Twitter players.
I think if you're looking at upside situations, though, you got to start with the Cavs because Kyrie has now turned into a top 10 commodity, for lack of a better word, but also that could be LeBron's comeback in 2 years, or actually less than that, in 16 months. And I think that rumor mill has already started. People are thinking, does he go to the Lakers or does he go to Cleveland? The Lakers won't take any contracts past 2014 because they're totally focused on trying to get him. And in Cleveland's case, it makes sense. If LeBron won one more title in Miami and then he goes back to Cleveland to play with Kyrie Irving, he gave them 4 years to rebuild that team. He atones for the fact that he left. I mean, in the whole LeBron narrative, that makes a ton of sense to me. I guess the one thing that wouldn't make sense is him and Dan Gilbert burying the hatchet. Maybe they have. I don't know about it. But do either of you think that's realistic that he goes back to Cleveland?
No, it makes more sense than going to the Lakers, where if he wasn't hated enough for going to Miami, I don't think going to the Lakers is going to increase his popularity.
Good point. But on the other hand,
I think that he should just go and he should spend like a year with every downtrodden team. And,
I like that. Like Kung Fu. Just travels from team to team and fixes them and then leaves.
Yeah, just do 1 year contracts. I'm gonna help Milwaukee, and I'll start with the Lakers, and then Milwaukee, and then Charlotte, and then go everywhere with Cleveland until the very end.
I like that idea.
And then
I think if he obviously cares more about his brand than anybody has since Jordan. And I feel like the Lakers moving his whole operation to Los Angeles, opening a production company, kind of blowing out the whole LeBron experience out here and Hollywoodizing it, for lack of a better word. I could see him doing that. I'm not saying he will. I could just see it. And
well, wasn't everybody's big problem, or at least one of the top 3 big problems with LeBron, that by going to Miami and playing with Wade and Bosh, he was front running, and that turned off so many people. So is he going to go to the Lakers now? I mean, he's going to leave Miami for one of the 2 signature franchises, the old guard of the Celtics, the Lakers. I mean, that would be such an unpopular move. If he's sensitive to his brand, he's not going to the Lakers.
Well,
I think
you're
absolutely right. I think the Lakers are do not want to take on any money beyond 2014 just to give themselves a shot at it. But if I had to choose between the 2 scenarios, I mean, I'd actually like to see him stay in Miami at this point. And, how about you just stay there and let them rebuild around you and see if Pat Riley can do it again with a younger group. But if he's going to go somewhere, Cleveland over LA would make more sense to me.
Yeah, and I don't see Dan Gilbert being a businessman and the desire to reestablish Cleveland. I don't see him having a problem having LeBron back. It's interesting that they've kind of set themselves up to have the ability to bring him in as well. So I don't see that as an issue. I don't see him going to LA. But the thing you said, Simo, about nobody since Jordan has been more concerned about his brand. I don't think anybody in the history of the game has been more conscious of his brand and making money. I mean, he hinted at it just the other day. I could be making so much more money. To me, from what I've been told, that's always been the number one thing for LeBron, is to be the first billion-dollar athlete. And which makes it interesting that he's mismanaged it as much as he did with the leaving Cleveland and the various things that he's done. But all that said, I would think that that's what he's trying to accomplish. And I wonder with you guys, does he need to go back to Cleveland to recapture that? Because to me, that was the heart of it. He was the hometown guy willing to lift up this downtrodden franchise. And when he left, it took away something that I don't think he can recapture.
Yeah, I mean, it's just as contrived as, going to play with Wade and Bosh, and what a sin that was against the credo of the game, that the great players aren't supposed to do that. I had less of a problem with LeBron doing that. I mean, you need help to win championships. I mean, that's always been proven in this league. Magic had a ton of guys around him. Bird had a ton of guys around him. Jordan had less, but he was in an era that you needed less. So, I mean, I didn't have as huge a problem with LeBron going to Miami and hooking up with those guys. But now, if they win a couple, I'd like to see him stay after Wade. And, okay, you've won a few that way. Now win it the other way, where they reload around you. You don't have to go hitch your wagon to Kyrie Irving now because you've milked Miami out of as much championship life as you can get in South Beach.
I think actually he would be bringing his wagon over to have Kyrie Irving hitch his wagon on it. But it would be interesting. Like, first of all, front running is totally different because now so many people have done it. I don't even think he'd take heat anymore. But I love the fact that, in 2 years, Kyrie Irving could be like the 6th best player in the league for all we know. And LeBron going back to Cleveland, which would have been seen as some sort of like charity move, like guilt move. He feels bad. He's trying to atone for the fact he never should have left. Actually, it would also be a really smart basketball decision because playing with Kyrie Irving, the lottery picks that they've had the last couple of years, even if they haven't been fantastic, they're still serviceable players. And then they're going to have another lottery pick this year. They'll have cap space. Might be a good basketball decision. Better than the Lakers.
But if he was branded a mercenary in some corners for, hitching, basically saying, I'm going to Miami with Wade and Bosh, people aren't going to say the same thing if he says, now I'm done with them and I'm going to go play with Kyrie Irving because he's 25.
No, I think the sentimentality of the move, I think people will buy into. Buke, you'd buy into that, wouldn't you? A little?
Well, look, he's a mercenary. What I mean,
all
he's going to do what's best he's going to do what's best for LeBron. So the idea that I don't get the sense that I think that he accepted how he had to change and what he learned being in Miami, but I don't get the sense that that's ever been the perfect fit for him. And I do believe that seeing people burn his jersey and knowing that people in Cleveland still resent the hell out of him, that he wants to fix that. That he being loved, being universally loved is and was far too important for him for so long to think that now he doesn't care or that he doesn't want to fix that. I can't believe that. I think he has the opportunity if he has the opportunity to fix that, he'll do that. Even for the sake of winning rings. I know he's the 5, 6, 7. I just don't get the sense that that's like he wants to win enough to get people off his back. Not that he wants to win so many that he challenges Jordan or Duncan or anybody else. I've just never gotten the sense that winning championships is the drive for him. Being recognized and making a ton of money is.
I'm going to respectfully disagree with you, Buke. I think he hit rock bottom in 2011, and I think winning that title last year was a liberating thing for him in a lot of ways. And you're seeing it now with the way he's playing. You guys, I mean, I hesitate to ask this question because I think we're in the era of, every week we have to say somebody's the greatest ever, the best ever, whatever. So I'm going to phrase it like this. We'll start with you, Steiny Mo. When was the last time you saw somebody play basketball as well as LeBron James is playing it right now?
Well, personally, up close, surely, I mean, only Jordan. And I didn't get to cover that Jordan. Well, I guess that's wrong because I guess even in the last three-peat, he was still otherworldly. But I mean, this kind of efficiency and across the board dominance, maybe that 1 year Shaq had when he won the MVP, he was that dominant. But I mean, the numbers he's putting up right now. I mean, when you're shooting 70% for him in a month, halfway through a month, you're doing something right.
Buke, you and I were LeBron's harshest critics in terms of he should do this, and the biggest thing we always said was, why isn't he going down to the low post? Why hasn't he worked on that game? That would open up every single thing he does. He could be the most devastating inside-outside player who has ever lived, and he's actually done this.
Yeah, no, and it's not a pure post game, but he's playing below the free throw line, and he's imposing his combination of size and speed. And look, to me, that was losing. When I look at the way they lost against Dallas, and then the way he played against Oklahoma City, he played an entirely different game, and it was like he was finally convinced. Look, if you want to win a ring, this is how you're going to have to play. And now he's doing it. And this is what always grated me about people that he does this. It's somebody else's fault. He needs more around him. He needs this. And I'm like, no, he's not fully utilizing what he's capable of. If he does that, then you can say he doesn't, that there's something else missing. But until he does that, I'm not giving him the alibi that he needs someone else or something else. Now that he's finally doing that, it's like, hey, all bets are off. And that's why, as much as Miami is, the question is about what Wade has left and do they have enough size and they're getting beaten on the boards. With LeBron playing this way and knowing that he can impose his game on people the way he is, I still give Miami a great chance of winning another one, regardless of how the rest of the Heat are playing, because LeBron has that understanding now that I don't think that he embraced prior to finally winning a ring and how he won it.
Last question. I wrote about PEDs a week and a half ago for Grantland, and it's something that definitely want to keep talking about on this podcast. I think there's a lot of misunderstanding by the public on what people test for, what they don't. Let's start with you, Steiny Mo. Do you feel like the consensus is that the NBA, quote unquote, does not have a problem with PEDs? Do you feel like that is true, untrue, half true? What do you think?
I would say the testing has to be ramped up because I think in any sport you follow now, I mean, we all have to be skeptics. We have not been skeptical enough. I mean, I can tell you, covering the NBA, no matter who you ask, coaches, athletic trainers, team doctors, other players, everyone will tell you there's no benefit to those things in basketball. It doesn't work for basketball players. And you know, we can't be that naive. We have to ramp up the testing to really find out. So, you know, I guess half true. I mean, there is testing right now, and there have been, you know, only a handful of suspensions for performance-enhancing drugs. You know, I'm trying to remember them off the top of my head. I mean, there's been 5 or 10 in the last decade.
Been 7. There's been 7, okay, and you know, as I wrote in the piece, they test for they do 4 drug tests a year, and then it's basically a free for all after that. Obviously, that's not acceptable, and also with the amount of money at stake, and the fact that these guys are over competitive, I think you want to take away the choice of maybe having them bend the rules if they wanted to. Stern said that there's going to be blood testing as soon as next season. It sounds like it's important to him now. I don't know whether I believe him or not. Buke, do you believe him that we're going to have blood testing next year?
I believe that they will try to introduce that. You know, with the players' union being the mess that it is, if the owners want that, there's no question that they can get it. But to the larger question, when you look at the prevalence of PEDs, you look at the great advantage that those who are developing PEDs have and how far ahead of the game they are as far as testing and how prevalent it is in all the sports, you'd have to be extremely naive to think that PEDs are not being used at some level in the NBA and that there's simply not a way of detecting it. Now, I'm not saying that there's any definitive proof, but anecdotally, when you look around and see the use of it in every sport and how advanced they are, and the fact is, we know. I mean, look at the platelet thing. Look at that's a thing where guys across every sport heard about it and started using it. The cryotherapy that I wrote about a year ago. Anything that gives a team or a player a competitive edge, it goes like wildfire from sport to sport. So the idea that somehow the NBA is some island separate from all the other sports and doesn't have any of it, it's without knowing anything definitive, it's hard for me to believe.
And I would say, you know, when you think about how much David Stern takes over the league in 1984, and even before he took over, he placed such a priority on drug abuse in the league and cocaine and getting rid of it and making sure that people didn't think his players were on drugs. And he almost went overboard. Like, we had the 3-strike policy in the NBA. No other league had anything close to that. He was just bound and determined to clean up any illusion that there were drugs in his sport. And it's amazing to me that he hasn't carried that over to this decade. And, you know, I think belatedly he brought up this blood testing thing. I think he was 2-3 years too late on it. And it's really strange to me that this wasn't a priority for him until the final year of his tenure. Like, and I also think that the NBA would have the most to lose out of any sport if they had one of the best 13, 14 players embroiled in some PED scandal, because this is a league that relies so much on personality. And I don't know. I'm disappointed in the way they've handled it the last couple of years. Steiny Mo, do you feel like this is something that will be in for next year? Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, usually when he lets it slip publicly, that means the wheels are already, in motion to make it happen. I don't think, especially now that it looks like he's going to get the team back in Seattle, which is, something that's a big deal for him and his legacy. I don't think that this is something he'd really want to announce and bring, shed light on when nobody was even really asking about it, or a very small minority was asking about it, and then for it not to come true. But there's no question, Buke's 100% right. We need it. It's overdue. And I hate to say it, but you have to assume the worst. This is the world that we live in now. We have to assume the worst. We have to ask more questions. And, I mean, the one thing I would say, I'm not sure that I agree with you on the NBA has the most to lose, only because, after the Donaghy scandal, which to me is the worst thing that can happen to a sports league, the NBA survived that better than I ever thought. Even that next season, I heard so little. I expected to hear Donaghy taunts from fans all the time. I mean, you hear it once in a while, but it never overshadowed the league like I thought it would. So I think people love their sports so much that they take these hits, and there's talk. There's a lot of outrage when people talk. But I mean, if the NBA can handle Donaghy, I think they can handle just about anything.
I think we collectively, as sports fans, as in the sporting world, there's no getting the PEDs back in the bottle. There's no eliminating them from sport. I think the adjustment has to come from the other side. It has to accept that, you know what, this is part of sport today in developing athletes, is that there is a scientific element to it, and that we need to sort of take that attitude that this is illegal and this is cheating. And when I look at all the advancements in developing training and diet and the use of nutrition, and there's just it's too thin a line between that and using certain science to improve the physical development of athletes, to say, well, you can do A, B, and C, but D, E, and F are completely off the board. I just think we're past that. And maybe more than anything else, we have to reset how we view the use of performance-enhancing drugs, rather than it being, some sort of black mark or a taboo word, that it's, this is part of the landscape. And we need to find a way to balance the scales and make it equal for everybody, but it's not going away.
And this is something Chuck Klosterman brought up on my podcast last week, and I thought it was a good point. I've been thinking about it for the last few days.
I was wondering when you were going to name drop again. It had been like 30 minutes.
Oh, stop it. So he was saying, should we fundamentally have a problem with an injured athlete using a PED to heal? Like, for instance, let's say Derrick Rose, he could be back in 18 months at full speed with his knee injury, or if he used HGH, could be back in 8 months at full speed. And
well,
that's
if it's
like
not
an extra
legal by league rules, yes, you should have a problem with it. If it's legalized, then no.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. Like, should it be legal for a recovering athlete if it's something like, Jacoby's grandmother has HGH in her bathroom cabinet? So it seems like we pick and choose what's legal and what's not. Like today on ESPN.com, there's a big story about Jonathan Papelbon and Toradol and how the Red Sox were injecting him with Toradol. And it's like, I don't think Toradol is any more or less safe than you take that in large doses than HGH is. I mean, anything in quantity is probably not great for you if you do it in excess. But I don't know. That's the part I'm struggling with, because if we could find ways to get guys on the field faster, and by the time they get on the field, then they're not using the stuff anymore, maybe that's not a negative. That, in my mind, I don't know if I'd have a problem with that. I have to think about it some more, though. What do you guys think?
Well, as a Cal State Fullerton grad, I'm not yet to the level of naming various performance-enhancing drugs like you are. I never even heard of that, whatever you just said. So
right.
I clearly need to do a little more research.
Buke, would you have a problem with it?
No, I don't. I just feel like, it's a reality of where we are, And ultimately, there's so much money invested that if you can look, if I can see more of Derrick Rose or LeBron James or you name it, Adrian Peterson, I want to see them perform, and I want to see them have the opportunity to maximize.
But what's the line? What's the line on how strong a PED it is?
I don't know, and that's what we have to figure out.
Exactly, and I'm not qualified, but I'm certainly not qualified to have that discussion. But I just feel like this idea that we're going to eliminate them from sport, or you're going to draw a line and say you can't do. There's just too many ways to utilize them, and if you want to level the playing field, give everybody equal access to the use of them, as opposed to, you know what, if you're with this particular team. I mean, to me, it's ultimately it would be safer if we all knew more and we're all utilizing them in the same way.
Oh, and if it extends Nash's career, then I'm okay with it.
If Nash could play till 50, they should all be legal.
Yeah,
I think for me, the line is whatever happened to baseball from 1998 to 2003 when guys' heads were actually changing sizes. That's maybe like if your head starts increasing in size, that might be the line. But we do need to figure that out. We got to go. I'm really glad we booked the first 3-man pod of the season. This will not be the last. You guys badger me if I forget for a couple weeks. This was fun as always. Ric Bucher, Marc Stein, a pleasure. We will talk to you soon.
So I get to sign off. Whoa!
Thank you for downloading the BS Report with Bill Simmons.
Too much fun.
Check out more podcasts at the iTunes Music Store or at Pod Center at ESPNradio.com.
Peace out.